Welcome to my presentation on the Upper Arlington Public Library's marketing plan. To give you a little bit of background, in the beginning of last year, we wanted to understand our marketing effectiveness. We wanted to understand our areas in terms of marketing and communication as part of our strategic plan. And what this means is that we wanted to understand marketing in terms of the perceived value of the community to us, because that's going to be important as we come up to the upcoming levy. Does the community, whether they use us or not, perceive the library as a value? Also, we wanted to see if the community or our users are aware of all the services and resources that we provide, and take stock of our current marketing efforts. What are we doing now? What do we have access to? How are we reaching people? So how did we do that? First, we reviewed and evaluated everything that we have in terms of data. And we have a lot. We looked at our library demographics, who our users are, who our non-users are. We took stock of all of our marketing efforts, though in the ways that we communicate with people in terms of print and social media and online. We even looked at how we communicate internally. This will help us to see if there are ways that we can be more efficient in terms of our marketing and communication efforts. In order to do that, so we took all of our current data, we compiled all of that. We consulted with Stacy McGintyre and Corey Kerr, both consultants, that came in and developed a qualitative survey that we distributed and had over 800 responses, 600 plus of which were residents of Upper Arlington. And questions that were included on the survey were things like, the perceived value of the library. Do you consider the library to be a valuable asset to the community? Do you believe that having a library in your community, is beneficial to the residents? Are you aware of all these services and resources that we provide? Stacy also interviewed over 20 patrons and residents in terms of those same types of questions, and was able to actually follow up on some of the answers that they gave. She also interviewed each one of our departments or department heads to get information on what we perceive ourselves to value. How do we see ourselves as an institution, as a library? And sort of mirroring those two things together. We want to take the perception that the community and our patrons have of us, and we want to match that with what we think are the most important things that we provide. Because if we're able to do that, it's much easier for us to market, because we are speaking the same language. We are identifying and defining the priorities that are both important to us as an institution and as to staff members, as well as to what's important to the community and to the people that use our library. So out of all of our existing assets, we had to look at which ones resonated both with the patrons and with the staff. And so there was a moment where Stacy discovered that there was a lack of clarity around the library's priorities. What are the things that are the most important to us? And this goes beyond our tagline of UAPL, place to explore, gather, and grow. This is really defining what do we hold as the most important things that we provide to the community. So administrative team took time to sift through all the data, sit down and look at everything, and narrow down 4 defining priorities of the library. And this is looking at information from the community, from the surveys, and from what staff had said. So one is that we provide educational and experiences and opportunities for lifelong learning. Lifelong learning is at the cornerstone of what we do here. And this includes all the books we provide, this includes the classes that we teach, the databases that we offer, and all of the personalized service that we provide. Speaking of personalized service, expert staff connecting people to resources and information. That is a cornerstone of what we do here, and it is what makes us special and unique among the libraries in Central Ohio. We have the most highly talented, expert staff, highly trained, being able to connect people to the information and the resources that they need. We also offer entertainment and leisure opportunities. We provide story times. We do movie nights. We have we have musical bands come in and perform. These are places that people can come to have fun with their families. We also pride ourselves in being a gathering space and a community partner. People come here to work in groups, to work alone, to study, to read. And being a place within the library is incredibly important. And a partner to all of the organizations that exist within Upper Arlington. Those are our defining priorities as an institution. So looking at all of those priorities, we want to be able to sum up our value in one sentence. And this is what's called our value proposition. So in one sentence, explaining to someone what our value is as an institution is that we have highly trained staff here at the library that can offer personalized guidance through abundant resources to provide access to lifelong learning and discovery opportunities. That is who we are. That is what we are in our essence. And why is this important? So I want to talk a little bit about, okay, so we defined our priorities. Once we defined our priorities, so if you understand, we have a myriad, and I will show you on the next slide, a myriad of products and services and resources that we provide to the community. It is very difficult to be able to market everything in the same way equally. We basically, take all of this information and we just put it all in these documents and we send it out, and we're with no rhyme or reason behind a lot of the things that we're doing. We're just hoping something sticks. We're hoping that the message that we're trying to put out resonates with the person that is receiving it. So really, the marketing plan is we need to be more targeted and more specific on our messaging so that the messages resonate and people are getting the information that they're looking for. So how do we do this? Our marketing plan is supposed to outline our communication and marketing strategy. Why? It is to increase the use and awareness. So increase use, so that's one of our measuring mechanisms. We want to see an increase in use of the library's services because that means that our marketing tactics are working. And we also want to increase awareness. There's a lot of people that we talk to, especially out in the community, if they don't use the library regularly, even if they do, they're very unaware of some of the other things that we provide. So we want to make sure that we're increasing awareness too. Even if somebody doesn't necessarily use a product or service, if they are aware of it, we are doing our job right. So as you can see here, we have a myriad of products and services, and this is not an all-inclusive list. Obviously, books, movies, music, magazines, and more. We have events for all ages, passport services, copies and fax, computers and printing, tech help, research help, databases, readers advisory, not to mention all the spaces that we have here for group study, quiet study, individual work, play. We have volunteer opportunities. We have opportunities for people to come and volunteer at the library and to donate and to help us. We even provide outreach delivery. Just again, and that is not even a total list of everything that we do. So again, marketing is challenging because we have all of these wonderful things that we do. It's very difficult to sort of, send all of this information out and just hope that the person receiving it, something sticks with them. We also have competition, and this is very important in terms of marketing. We have to realize that there are other competing things for people's time and attention. They have streaming services, they have other community events or other areas that they're involved in. If they have kids that are in school, there might be sporting events or school events. There's other places that they can go, like the park or the coffee shop or the movie theater. There's, parks and recreation. There's Amazon. If they want a book, in a couple of days and they don't want to wait 3 weeks, they might just pay $10 to get it online. There's home delivery services for pretty much everything now. So these are our competitors, and knowing that these are out there, again, helps us with our marketing efforts. And honestly, even in terms of how we might look at how we provide services in the future. So now that we have identified our products and services and everything that we offer, we've identified what our competitors are. Now we need to understand who's our audience. When we are communicating, when we are marketing, we are targeting three types of audiences. One is internal. We have to make sure that our staff, that you are well informed and prepared to support library initiatives, because this will result in increased use. You are our frontline staff that talk to people on a regular basis. You are the best thing that we have in terms of being able to communicate what's going on at the library, what someone might be interested in, but you have to be aware of those services and resources as well. We also have external. Obviously, we do direct marketing, marketing to our patrons, marketing to our residents, but it's to increase understanding of what's available and how it's going to help them do what they need to do. And lastly, and one that you might not think about, are our funding stakeholders. People in this community are taxpayers. Their taxes go to fund over half of our revenue. It is very important for our community to understand the value of the public library and what we provide to this community, regardless of whether they use us or not. They have to consider us a value in order for them to vote yes when it comes time. So we have to demonstrate the impact of our funding, how we use that money to operate the library, the good things that we're doing, how we're being good fiscal stewards of taxpayer dollars, and people that donate to the library and organizations that we partner with that donate to the library. We need to show appreciation through recognition of their contributions, and tell everyone exactly how we're using those dollars, and being gracious and grateful as well. So how do we do this? So here are the channels. Here are the ways in which we communicate now. We have a lot of things that we own that we have complete control over when we send out information. We have our library link, which is our printed brochure that we send out to all of our branches. It is not mailed. We have an e-newsletter that goes out via email, but it's opt-in. They have to subscribe to it. We have our website, which is accessible by anyone. We have in-house promotional signs, which are only seen by people that come into the building. We do have our social media accounts, our Facebook and Instagram accounts. We can put things on account notices, so if they get either something via email or they get something via text, we have some control over what we can have put in there. And we obviously send out donor and impact letters to people and organizations that donate. We can record messages on our phone, so when people call, as an example of the COVID test kits, we can very easily let people know that we don't have any, or that they're back in, and pick them up via curbside. We do have some pamphlets, and we do have a limited amount of direct mail that we can do each year. It tends to be very expensive, and so we don't do this as often as we do all of our other printed materials. Shared is the city e-newsletter. Sometimes they will put in things into the city's e-newsletter that goes out to all the residents. I'm pretty sure if they subscribe to that, we can have things put in there. And the UA Insight, which is a printed piece that goes out every couple of months to residents in Upper Arlington. The other one I will put on here is that we also have this week Upper Arlington will post and print articles about things going on at the library, sometimes, as well as the Columbus Dispatch. So a couple definitions as we go forward. First is identifying some of these terms that I'm going to be using as we talk about the marketing plan. The first is a goal. A goal is an aspirational forward-thinking statement. It describes the desired end or state of the plan towards which our efforts are directed. So this is not specific. This is an overall goal that we want to achieve. So an objective is a broad step designed to help attain the overall goal. Your goal is going to be made up of multiple objectives to reach that. It's going to take multiple things that we need to accomplish to reach that overall goal. An action item is very specific action that needs to take place to achieve that goal. So this is where the detail comes in. This is like, okay, how are we, who's going to do it? When are they going to do it? How are they going to do it? And all of those, that who, what, when, where, why, goes into this action item. And the measurement is something that is going to be necessary, and this is the biggest part, and this actually ties into part of our first part of the strategic plan in terms of data analysis. Sometimes we make decisions based on no data and just anecdotal. Well, we think people look at the signs in the library. Well, do they? We need to measure that. We need to figure out a way to measure that. We need to look at our website data. There's all types of things that we need to do in terms of measurement and identify what is the measure of success. What does success look like? How do we know that we're actually reaching the people that we intend to reach with the message that we are putting out there? So we have identified 4 goals for our marketing plan. So these are obviously different than our priorities. Our priorities are just identifying who we are as an organization. So what goals will help us achieve success in terms of marketing and communication? So first is UAPL positioning. We need to position the library as a valuable and integral part of the community in order to have members consider it to be a benefit. This means that we have to use language that resonates with our community and that communicates value. Sometimes we use library jargon that doesn't really mean anything to people in the community. So that's one of the things that we need to take a look at. We want to make sure that the community values the library and understands it to be a benefit, and really measuring that and identifying how do we do that. Another is promotion of UAPL offerings. Now, this is what we do mostly. We promote our services and our resources, our databases, our books and movies, our passport program, but we want to expand the awareness of those services, and we want to increase participation. We want to increase knowledge and utilization. So it's not only measuring use, but it's also measuring awareness. How do we know that people are aware of certain things that we provide? Another is fiscal stewardship, and this is incredibly important. We have to create a plan to communicate to our community, the local and state government on the financial operations of the library. That it includes funding, expenditures, revenues, capital projects, donations, partnerships, cost savings, because we are accountable. We are accountable to you, we are accountable to the community, we are accountable to the state. To account for all of those dollars, we're accountable to our donors on using those funds wisely. And so we need to be able to communicate that effectively, and we need to identify who do we need to communicate to, how often, how do we communicate that, how do we ensure that we have a steady source of revenue, and that we're using it well. And lastly, but definitely not least, is our internal communication. We have to devise a plan to ensure thorough communication from and to the board, administration, leadership, departments, branches, and staff. It is internal communication, as you can see, and we learned through our Gallup study the year before last, that communication is one of the areas that we need to improve. We've made some strides over the past year in terms of our message board and posting things to the staff intranet, our SMS alert system. But there's always room for improvement. We know that we have a lot more work to do in terms of internal communication. We want to make sure that there is an easy flow of communication back and forth between all departments, branches, staff, and the board, making sure that everybody has the information that they need, that their issues and concerns are heard, and we need to have a plan that is specific and detailed enough to know how that is going to work. And then a way to measure that. Is the communication that we are sending out, is it effective? So for each one of these areas, each one of these 4 goals, we have identified an objectives for each. So these again are the broad steps that we need to take in order to reach these goals. Now, what we're going to have to do is that there's still more work to be done. Action items have not been planned for each one of these objectives. We don't have measurement strategies in place. What we're going to be doing is opening this up for staff to participate in committees that will be specific to certain areas of topic that will help us reach what these goals are and help us reach these objectives. So in terms of UAPL positioning, we've done some of this work already. We started working on branding and key messages over the last year. This is where the Start Here campaign came from. We wanted to develop key messages that resonated with our staff, that we could use very easily, that were easily relatable to people. And basically what it boiled down to, the Start Here campaign was, instead of trying to guess what somebody is looking for, anytime we have something that somebody wants, they just need to start here. We are going to be branding ourselves as the first stop in trying to find information. That's really what all people need to know. They don't need to know the myriad of resources that we have. All they have to do is know how to ask. So that means that we have to be able to communicate that. The other areas in terms of UAPL positioning, now social media strategy, we use our social media in a multitude of ways. One is obviously to promote events, resources, and services to the community, but it also is used for engagement. This is a place where we can engage with the community in a way that we really can't engage in other ways. And so we want a specific long-term social media strategy to help us consistently promote our core services, promote community engagement, and seasonal activity. So we need a committee that's going to work together to define our social media strategy and what is our social media's purpose. What percentage of it should be spent on programming and on advertising programming? What percentage of it should be community engagement and asking questions and facilitating dialogue with people that love and use the library? How much of it should just be fun content? That committee is going to be responsible for identifying and determining what that strategy looks like. Each committee, I should also mention, will be responsible for utilizing resources in order to create that plan and define those action steps. So you're not going to have to fly blind or go alone. Each committee will be made up of several members who will all share and go through the same resources to define and develop that plan. So obviously we will identify resources, or that the chair of that committee will define resources that will be helpful for that committee to do that work and to create that plan. Lastly, for UAPL positioning is media engagement. We have to have better relationships with our media. These are reporters, these are, social media influencers. We want to make sure that we are sending them information in a timely fashion. This really falls under the purview of the marketing department, and will be identified under the things that they need to do. So in terms of promoting the library's offerings, so we want to expand the awareness of services and programs in the terms of the patron in language that they understand, in order to increase knowledge and utilization. So first, we need to identify, which we've done some of this work already, the methods of communication that we have access to. But there may be other ways that we have not thought of. So it's really determining those methods of communication. What are the best ways of reaching people? We need a content strategy committee. So we have a lot of print materials. We have bookmarks and flyers and half sheets, and just our buildings are littered with paper. But we have no idea if any of this content is actually helping. Is it getting the message that we want them to have? Or is it actually, are they just using it for bookmarks? So really, we want to have a content strategy the same way that we have our collections and we weed our collections, and we're very strategic about the things that we put on the shelves to make it more browsable and accessible. We need to do that as well with our content, with all of the printed materials that we have throughout all of our buildings. So we will have a content strategy committee who will be responsible for creating a plan of the types of content that we will have printed in the library. And this doesn't include library link. These are basically just signage, bookmarks, half sheets, quarter sheets, printed signs, posters. We have to know if these methods are effective. Are they reaching the people that we intend to reach? If we have too many things on a desk, is that actually effective? The committee is going to be responsible for determining action steps in order to create a content strategy that's actually effective, and be able to report out those statistics to show that the things that we're printing actually are doing the things that we want them to do. Marketing funnel is going to be a way for us to determine where the bottlenecks are in terms of communication. This is basically following the journey of a patron to get to the thing that they want. This is actually talked about in this book, the marketing and communications, library marketing and communications strategies to increase relevance and results. This is probably the resource that that committee will use in order to work through that marketing funnel. If somebody calls the library, is the menu system correct? Are they getting the right prompts? Does it make sense to them? When they get to the person, is the person saying the things that they need or asking the correct questions? This is all about, finding where those bottlenecks are and making it easier for people to get the information that they're looking for. Another committee that we will have is specific just for the website. So we will have a website redesign committee. This will be mostly responsible for content. And again, knowing that we cannot put everything and anything on the website. There has to be a reason. We are not here to be a link repository for other organizations. I get at least 2 requests a day from outside organizations wanting me to put a link on our website because it generates more search engine results if they have their link listed in multiple places. But that is not why we exist. We exist to give information to the people that are looking for it, but we need to identify exactly what that is. Identify what is our website for. We're not Google, so we need to figure out what information is the most important that we need to put there and how do we make it easily accessible to the people that are using it. So again, there will be resources that the committee will be responsible for reading and learning about website redesign. If you are not a website expert, you will be by the time you're done with this committee. So that is one of the other committees that we will have. And I will go over each one of the committees at the end and tell you how you can sign up for those committees. So for the fiscal stewardship goal, that falls into 3 areas, 3 objectives. One is communication. We want to make sure that we're sending out timely communications and sending out corresponding presentations about the library's finances to the board. We do have some regular communications that we provide to the board in terms of finances. We do that every single finance and board meeting, but also communicating our financial status to the staff. We did a couple budget presentations last year. We will continue to do those so that you know where we are in terms of our financial health. What we are spending our money on, if the library is, having success in terms of funding, or if we're struggling, what's happening with the public library fund, which follows to the next objective, which is library funding. So it is my responsibility. I will be the head of the fiscal stewardship committee. It is my responsibility to communicate the status of state funding from the library to the board, to the staff, to the local community, and go to advocate to maintain or increase state funding for public libraries to our government officials. That's part of my job. And so, but I want to be specific about that and write that down so we have that in our marketing plan, that is something that we have to do. It's not an option. And lastly, just to create awareness of opportunities for giving. People love to give to the library, and sometimes they don't even realize that they can. We have specific needs for special projects. We have the Friends of the Library group. People have all kinds of ideas in terms of, bequesting donations in memory of someone and the things that we're able to do with that. So it's not only letting people know of the opportunities available for donation and to help the library, but also how to volunteer, how to donate their time, and then showing gratitude and appreciation for all of the people that give their time and their money to the library. So lastly, this is probably not the simplest one, but the simplest in terms of objectives, which is internal communications. So again, this is really one of the most important goals that we have in terms of marketing is our internal communications plan. We want to make sure that we are reaching you and giving you the information that you need to know, that we're communicating effectively at all levels, both from us to you, from you to us, from you to your manager, from your manager, it goes across the board. There's a lot of methods of communication. We want to make sure that those are effective and that the information is getting received and is being heard. So the first is to conduct an employee communication audit. We want to know if you're getting the information that you need and that you have ways that you can communicate to us easily and effectively. And then creating objectives based on the findings of the communication audit. So there's a lot of work to be done in that committee. Very excited about that one as well. So the next steps, the marketing committees are going to determine any additional objectives beyond the scope of the ones that were determined by administration. You will define as a committee the action items that will help you get there, and the methods of evaluation for all of those areas. So you would be responsible for using relevant resources to aid in creation of objective strategies and evaluation methods. And evaluations are going to be required for all objectives because we need to know if we're being successful. And that could be pretty difficult for certain things. And you may not have to measure them all the time. Maybe it's just a survey that you send out once a year, but there has to be some kind of measurement to know that we're hitting our targets. So finally, here is a snapshot of all of our marketing plan committees. So Chris Minks is heading up the External Communications Committee to identify the best methods of reaching target audiences, reducing holes in the marketing funnel, and evaluating the effectiveness of our marketing strategy. She is also going to be on the committee for the editorial calendar. This committee will be a smaller committee, but it's basically this committee is responsible for creating an editorial calendar for internal and external publication with specific goals and deadlines. This will help us in a couple areas. One, our community partners. We have to know when things are due. They need to understand when our library link goes out and, be aware of our publication dates. We can't have our community partners reaching out to us, 2 months before, they want to do something. And we're like, well, we just published our library link for the summer. You missed the deadline. A lot of them don't, there's a few that don't understand that. And so making sure that we have an editorial calendar that we refer to, it helps us with planning. It helps me with planning. It's a way to communicate across all branches what everyone's doing, what things happen seasonally, so that we can plan around that one standard yearly calendar. It doesn't mean that there's not flexibility within that calendar, but it's just sort of, again, just a basic template for the things that happen over the course of a year. Basic deadlines of when things are due, and what happens during the course of a year. Okay, so I will be heading up the Fiscal Stewardship Committee to help plan informational communications on the finances of the library, providing the right communication at the right time to the right people. I'm also heading up the Internal Communication Committee. So if you're interested in staff communication, internal communication is a passion of yours, I would love to have you on the committee and be a part of the team. Donna has been gracious enough to lead our social media strategy committee. This is to basically develop a long-term social media strategy to communicate purposefully and consistently. Jen 4 is going to be heading up our outreach committee. That definition hasn't quite been solidified yet, but it's basically identifying a plan, marketing strategy to determine how we're going to be participating in community events, and think about partnerships as well. She will be heading up that outreach committee. Anna Marie is offered to be ahead of our content creation committee. This is a committee that will audit, select, and call in and create content for ready-made print pieces for distribution and display at all UAPL libraries. And the one thing I will say why this committee is so important is that we have a very small marketing team. We have, in terms of the actual marketing efforts, there's Chris Minks and there's Alex. And so we have all these requests for printing materials, and yet we don't have any data on whether or not these are effective. If we were able to have a content creation strategy to determine whether or not the printing of all these materials is effective, or a strategy on how to maybe request materials, that committee is going to be the one that needs to decide that. And lastly, we have our website redesign committee, which will be headed up by Greg. They're going to conduct a website audit, look at our current website, take stock of everything we have, what's effective, what is not, and redesign the library's website and create a content strategy for that. So if you're interested in the content on the website and you want to learn more about web design and web content, that's definitely a committee for you. Any staff member can participate in these committees. If you are part-time, please talk to your manager to make sure that you have the time to commit to this. But I'm going to share with the timeline with you so you have an idea of sort of the commitment and time frame. This is not going to be a short process. So the first quarter, the committees are going to be identified, and you're going to research and learn about your selected topic. So basically, if you're on a committee, a resource will be determined, or resources will be determined. You'll have homework to do in terms of learning about the specific topic so that you can provide informative feedback to the content, to the strategy and the action items that you're going to be suggesting. The second and third quarters are where you're going to work with your committee to identify any new objectives, define action items for meeting those objectives, and creating evaluative measures for each strategies. The committee heads should meet on a regular basis. I'm not going to determine that for you, but there are some committees that have overlap. So for example, the editorial calendar committee should meet with social media strategy, because there are going to be things that happen on a regular basis that we may need to use social media for. So we want to make sure that those two committees are talking to one another. Same thing with the website. So there are some methods of overlap, but those committee heads should be able to meet together to talk about some of the things that when there are objectives that might overlap, or let's see where you are, and maybe there are things that are similar. And then the last quarter, the fourth quarter of the year, I will be asking the committees to present their objective, strategy, and evaluation criteria with a timeline for implementation. So basically, we are not putting this plan or any kind of strategy into place until possibly next year. So this year is going to be spent, the entire year is going to be spent planning out our strategy. So we have plenty of time to read our resources, to learn and discover new information, to be able to create those plans and be thoughtful about them, and then finally presenting our final plan by the end of the year. So that is the end of the UAPL marketing plan presentation. I am going to be posting this video on Infobon with a link to sign up for any of the committees that you're interested in. If you have additional questions about serving on a committee, please email me, bhatch@ualibrary.org, or set up time with me at my director office hours, and we can sit down and talk about it. Thank you so much.